Celtic have got just 2 games left of 2024, the first of which is at Celtic Park on Boxing Day as we take on Motherwell in Matchday 17 of this season's Scottish Premiership. This is Tino with the Countdown to Kick-Off show, joined again all the way from Canada by Greg. Greg, good to see you again. How are you feeling ahead of this one?
Yeah, good. Thanks again for having us on, Tino. Absolute pleasure. Yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to the game. I think it gives us an opportunity just to put the weekend behind us, a disappointing result. It's actually quite a big game in the context of things. A month ago, you might look at this and just say, guaranteed 3 points and move on. But just coming off the back end of a disappointing 0-0 draw, I think the players will be really fired up to go and put a really good performance on at home as well. With a lot of away games, so it's nice being back at Parkhead. And the kind of media narrative at the moment is we're on a slight slump for Celtic. So I think the players and manager would really want to go out and put on a show. So I'm really looking forward to it, actually.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a response, and we'll get into the finer detail of that just through the recording. But you used the term there that, slump, and I think it's Keith Jackson from the Daily Record. Read into that what you will or not, but he's described it as a mini slump. But I suppose the facts of the matter are that we drew at Tannadice. We effectively drew in 90 minutes against Rangers, but obviously went on to win that one in penalties at Hampden. And then prior to that, you draw Champions League draw against Zagreb away. So, draws of sorts, but you can take Dundee United aside. The other two are pretty positive results. One of them gets you silverware. One of them takes you a step closer to Champions League qualification. So, call it mini slump if you want, but that would be some people's narrative. It wouldn't quite be mine.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and that is coming from certain media outlets, and I would tend to agree with you. It's how much you read into these things, and I think they're just desperate to try and have some kind of title race in the cards again. Rangers on the way up, we're in the way down. We've been here before, but just about concentrating on us. Sunday was disappointing, as we know. Again, we touched on this in the post-match the other day. I think it was very much to do with having players out, big players out, and hopefully we'll touch on this during the show that a lot of them will be back in. And just, again, you go back, I watched the game back again, the way Dundee United defended and the weather conditions were horrific. And I do think that had a part to play in it. I really do. I think that was a real negative impact for us. So, yeah, looking forward to getting over the mini slump, apparently.
Yeah, just on that, thanks, of course, to everyone that continues to join us on the live show, especially on Christmas Eve. It's a busy time. I was telling you earlier on, Greg, I was at Braehead, and that was horrendous. No fun for anybody, but glad to be back to talking Celtic at the moment. But a busy time of year, so I appreciate everyone joining us. A couple of good comments coming in, San Fran Celtic and Pat McLaughlin. And on that, Pat says, a mini slump. We're 32 games unbeaten domestically. We've lost 1 game in Scotland in the whole of 2024. And he's right, that was the Hearts game in early March. And we have 13 clean sheets out of 16 in the league. And Pat's absolutely spot on, Greg, isn't he? A bit of a reality check now and then isn't a bad thing, because we can all be upset in the moment. In terms of, Sunday was a bit of a slog against United and there's frustrations there and disappointing not to get all 3 points. But it's so important in football just to take that step back and look at everything else that Celtic are doing at this moment in time.
Yeah, I think we should just take what I think it was Pat said there and just forward it straight on to Keith Jackson. It's a really, really valid point. And again, it's when you look at the season as a whole, where we're at, we're in a really good position. And you're going to have results like that, like Sunday. They are going to creep up. It's such a busy time. And we're going to have poor results like that at times, but this is a real good chance to go on and kick on at home against Motherwell, which I think Motherwell will look at Dundee United and the way they set up, and I think they'll set up very, very similarly to try and stifle Celtic. They'll make it very difficult. There'll be lots of bodies in their own box, and it's up to us to break that down. But obviously being back at Parkhead will be beneficial to us.
Yeah, and whether Kettlewell sets up like that, Stuart Kettlewell or not, it's entirely Celtic's challenge to break that down. Any team's, well entitled to take whatever approach they see fit. And I think they might well have looked at what United done and thought, yeah, we'll take on a bit of that and maybe apply it to our own approach on Boxing Day. Greg, we obviously done the post-match, so we've got your comments in detail from that one. But just to recap, as I say, there were frustrations, but you've got that situation where there's 5 really important players missing, 3 of which are first-choice defenders in Alistair Johnson, Carter Vickers and Austin Trusty. We know James Forrest is a bit longer term. He's out for 6 weeks or so, and Nicholas Kuhn missed it as well. You cannot go into any game of football at any level with 5, certainly 4 first-choice players missing and not expect to see an impact, can you?
No, especially the likes of, and we touched upon this in the post-match, but with that relationship between Johnson and Kuhn down the right-hand side, It's imperative for Celtic they play when they're available. They've got such a great understanding and I think we discussed this as well about a stat about how many goals have came down that side. But we create so many chances down there, and I just felt on Sunday we didn't have much. We're very limited down that side, which meant we had to go down the left-hand side. And again, there was for me, there's a slight limitation with Taylor just maybe not aggressive going forward and help Maida enough. I do think Taylor will check back in more often than maybe a Baye in the Celtic side moving forward a wee bit more. So yeah, I think when you look at the players that were out, it's hard, and I think Kyogo was off form at the weekend. When you factor all that in, it's always going to be difficult. But you know, we're not bashing the players here. It's just one of those things when you miss that amount of players, you're going to struggle, particularly the way Dundee United set up. So hopefully we have, as I think we touched on just before the show there, at least 4 out of the 5 back in for Motherwell, and we can maybe look at the starting lineup and what we think that's going to look like.
Yeah, we'll get to that just shortly, but there's you're right in what you say there. There's 4 or 5 guys missed the game on Sunday, and into the bargain, the guys who were either retaining their place or coming in from the cold, they were just out of form. Just didn't quite get going, and it can happen. And whether I've mentioned this, I don't want to keep going on about it. I don't want to be an excuse finder kind of guy, but weather can play a part. But don't worry, I've looked ahead. I've done my Sean Batty. Weather for Boxing Day, wee bit windy, but nothing to worry about. Bit of rain, temperatures between 8 and 10 degrees, so everyone can relax. Weather, whatever else plays its part, weather won't be a big factor on the day. You mentioned Kyogo, which obviously brings up the fact that there's a bit of heavy speculation about him today. You might have seen the headlines about Atlanta over in the States. Ronnie Dyler's Atlanta, he's just taken the job there. He's head coach, and good luck to him. But the suggestions are that they're going to come in with a £10 million offer. Their season tends to run, I think, either January or February. They run out with the European calendar. They're looking to make a big signing, a statement signing, and Kyogo could be that guy. At the moment, as we all know, he's just about to turn 30. I think he turns 30 in January, but he did sign an extension, meaning that he'll be at Celtic till 2027, on paper at least. What do you think, Greg? If an offer of 10 million plus comes in for a player like that, do you take it? Like, what would you do personally if it was your call? And also, again, I'm keen to hear your thoughts, but there's a lot of chat about let him go, Kyogo's done, that's him off form, a couple of good seasons. I'm seeing some mad statements, to be honest with you, about Kyogo. The guy's been an absolute Celtic hero over the last few seasons, and some of the reactions for me are a wee bit over the top. But your take on that and the suggested offer from Atlanta?
No, thank you. Absolutely no chance are we selling Kyogo in January. It is not going to happen. They could come in with 15, 20 million. I don't think personally Kyogo wants to move away from Celtic just now. I think personally he's settled, he's happy. There is not a chance he's going to go in January. It'd be absolutely bonkers for Celtic to even consider letting him go. The money's not an issue for Celtic. It's not as if they come in and we don't really need the money just now. The money is in the bank there. I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening for 2 reasons. One, Celtic won't let him go, and 2, he's happy where he is. I said it to you years ago, I believe, that I thought Kyogo is the closest thing we've had since Henrik Larsson. I just think he's got us out of so many positions where maybe 0-0, you're needing that wee spark. You go back to the Hibs Cup final, the 2 goals he scored. He's a big time player for us, and I just can't see him going in January. He had an off day on Sunday. Yeah, these things happen, especially as a striker. But no, I wouldn't entertain it. I really wouldn't. If they come in, and it does sound like they are going to make a bid, but I can't see it happening. I'd be really disappointed if it was even entertained at the kind of higher levels at Celtic.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's the response. I mean, it was only a couple of weeks ago he scored that wonder goal against Hibs, and we're reflecting on that at the time, talking about only certain players can do that kind of thing. It's instinctive, and it's something that's just within his makeup. And I think then, yeah, he's had maybe a couple of poor games since then, and people want to get all excited again and talk about the fact that he's done. I think he's got so much still to offer. Listen, if this is 12 or even 18 months down the line, you maybe have a different conversation here, but I'm on the exact same page as you. I don't think Kyogo should be going anywhere anytime soon. You mentioned the fact that we've got plenty of money in the bank, and I said on the weekly show last night, you need all that money for Kieran Tierney. Give him the 70 million. That's the move to get KT back.
I would love that.
I'll ask you a quick question that I asked the boys last night. One of the fellas on our Blue Sky page, Sparta Crag is the name of the account holder, and he asked us if the deal is signed, done and dusted on 1st of January at 9 a.m, do you start KT Ibrox on the 2nd? What would you say?
100%. Just because it's him. Just
I'm
because.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that it would just be. I think it would be a real statement to get him back. He's an elite level player. We know about his injuries and other things going on, and who knows if Celtic can make the deal happen. But I'd love to see it, and I think most folks would. Anyway, let's get back to it in terms of the Motherwell game. So availability wise, because of the time of year, Greg, there's not been a formal press conference this afternoon to explain, ins and outs, who might be fit, who might not. But the suggestion is that Carter Vickers and Trusty were struggling with a bit of an illness, bit of a cold, something like that.
Yeah.
And the hope is that they'll certainly be available. Whether they both slot back in right away or not, it's a different question. James Forrest, we know he's longer term, that's fine. Alistair Johnson should be fine. They were giving him the extra recovery. I think he pushed himself to make the cup final. I think it showed at times. He wasn't at his best. Yeah. But I think it's a big boost to have him back. Nicholas Kuhn is a bit less clear. When asked about it, the manager said, we're not sure in terms of when he'll return. Apparently he's been feeling a niggle with his knee and he's been having that assessed and a few different things. So it was non-committal. That was on Sunday after the game. That may have changed in the last day or two. And we've obviously still got till Thursday. But it would be a big concern if one of, if not our most creative player at this moment in time, was to be out for an extended period.
Yeah, it's a bit of a worry, isn't it? And I think the fact that Rodgers kind of said that he's unsure of how long he's going to be out for, which is quite unusual. Usually Rodgers is quite honest in his assessment about injuries and about players, so it is a bit concerning. Coupled with the fact that we've lost Forrest there as well, because he can come in and he could have covered, or you could have switched up your wingers. So that's unfortunate timing. But yeah, a bit of a worry, especially looking ahead to the game against Rangers, which is not a million miles away. So you would be hoping he's back in, he's ready for that game. I think you're right with Alistair Johnson. I think he did push himself for the cup final, and I think it did show at times. You're absolutely right. But I do think he'll come back in. I think he'll come back in for the Motherwell game.
Yeah, I think so too. On that, Greg, then let's run through what we think we're going to see. So Kasper Schmeichel will start. Do you know, someone sent me a comment, again, I think it was in the Blue Sky page, saying, is it about time Solo gets a start, potentially next week, or the weekend now, I suppose, for the St Johnstone game. I don't see that anytime soon, and nor should we. And I think what you've got is a pretty comfortable situation there, where you've got a very experienced but very driven goalkeeper in Kasper Schmeichel. He's keeping numerous clean sheets. Pat McLaughlin gave us a stat earlier on, 13 out of 16 in the league. I think he's got 16 in total from Celtic's 26 games this season. And there's no reason to rock that boat. And Schmeichel, given his age, he'll want to play every game. He'll want to stay tip-top and ticking over. So I don't see that changing. No. And I think it's a real benefit to have what seems to be a talented goalkeeper in Sinisalo training and working with him. And his time will come and he'll get his opportunity in due course. But I don't think it should be anytime soon. So Kasper will start on Thursday. I do think Alistair Johnson will return it right back.
Me too.
Then the other three positions, the two centre-halves and the left-back, up for grabs for me. So what do you see happening yourself?
I'm glad that you passed that to me, the awkward one. You took the easy one, or the easy two. Thanks, Tino. I do think Vickers, I think he'll play his strongest team available to him against Motherwell, and I think that will be Vickers and Trusty. I think Trusty will come back in. I can't see that changing. I agree with you about Alistair Johnson will play. My notes there, we get to the left back and always have a chuckle about it because it's a bit of a coin toss. But I think Bailly will play. Okay. I do think Bailly will play, and I would prefer Bailly to play just because I think it's going to be a super low block we're playing against, and I think he offers more going forward. So I'm hopeful that would be the back four.
I find that hard to disagree, and I'd like to see Bailly. As I say, I find it hard to read into what Brendan Rodgers is doing there. I can't predict it accurately, and a lot of other things actually at any given time just now. But what about, and I know they weren't hugely tested, but Stephen Welsh and Liam Scales was the starting centre-half pair. Yeah. There are suggestions that Welsh may go out to, I think it's Mechelen in Belgium on loan. There's a few other clubs interested in him. Did he do enough to stay in, or is it writing on the wall for Stephen Welsh? Does he, when everyone's fit and available, does he simply not feature? Yeah,
the latter. I think he was in as a point of circumstance, effectively. He needed to come in. He was fine. I thought he had a decent game, to be fair. His distribution was good. Anytime he needed to defend, his positioning was good. But the writing's on the wall for me, and I think for Stephen Welsh, I've always quite liked him. He's taken a bit of criticism from Celtic supporters, but I've always quite liked him. I think his career's just been plagued by injuries at the wrong time for him, unfortunately. But I think he needs to go out and loan and play games for his own career. But no, I don't think he retains his starting place. For Scales, again, does nothing wrong for me. Again, just looking ahead to the games coming up, I think he'll want Vickers and Trusty back in just to kind of compound the kind of back four that we've got with Casper Schmeichel. I just think it keeps him more balanced. But again, if Scales played with Vickers and it wasn't Trusty, I wouldn't have a problem with it, which is a nice situation to be in. I just have a feeling that it'll be Trusty and Vickers again.
You might well be right. And what I'd really like to see at the moment is a bit of consistency. So we've got Motherwell on Thursday, St Johnstone on Sunday, and then Rangers on the 2nd. And I just think you don't want to tinker too much. You want to get guys back in, comfortable, and in their rhythm. And I think what we've seen, and again, it was raised on the show there last night, listener had got in touch. I think it was Ryan, actually, who's part of our WhatsApp community group. And Ryan was asking, is the chopping and changing of the midfield three actually causing more harm than good? So I understand the requirement and the reasons why Brendan Rodgers would do it in terms of keeping things fresh and rotating and all these modern things. But actually, would you be better just getting what you think is your best and settled three, and for the most part, sticking with them and then maybe dropping in your subs? What do you think? Because I think we all know, as an example, and I could have picked any one of the guys, but Luke McCowan is a real talent. Yeah. But he wasn't at the races there on Sunday. He obviously missed the cup final, given that he was cup tied. But coming in and out of such a side, it's hard to do. And I think we'd like to see consistency. There's a suggestion from Gypsy King, good friend of the show. He wants to see Engels, Bernardo and Kalmack. But others will want to see McCowan's and, in different kind of permutations of the five. So only three positions available. What would you like to see? What do you think the strongest three is, and what do you think we will see against Motherwell?
I think you touched upon a really valid point there. We need to see a settled midfield three, and I do think it is having a negative impact when other players come in. I think that's a really valid point. I'm hearing that from quite a few people. But it's necessity at this time of year. We're playing so many games. You can't play maybe the same three, and that's the reasons why guys have chopped and changed in there. I would actually argue that McGregor, I thought, just looked like he needed a wee break, but he's never going to come out the starting 11. But I maybe thought the next game against St Johnstone, do you give him a wee rest ahead of the Rangers game? But again, then that's chopping and changing it. For me, again, what Gypsy King said there, I do like Engels. I really want him to do well. He needs that moment, which he nearly got against Dundee United very late on in the game. He just needs his confidence boosted by a goal, a moment in a match. So I wouldn't be adverse to him playing. I personally think it'll be McGregor, Hatate and Bernardo for me. I think that'll be the starting three midfield. I do think that's probably the strongest right now as well. You could make an argument that Hatate's been quite poor for a couple of weeks. And again, that'd be the case, but I think those three together are probably our best three midfield at this point, and I think that's who you'll go with. Yeah,
that's an interesting one, and it's been the topic of debate since the start of the season. And again, it shouldn't really have an impact, what I'm about to say, but the fact that you've paid 11 million for Engels almost kind of means you kind of have to play him in these big games. But the manager decided otherwise. He didn't start them against Rangers in the cup final, didn't start them against Zagreb in a big Champions League game. And Arne Engels is having to be patient, talented as he is. He's having to wait, and he's having to, I suppose he's having to earn it. You can't just get minutes because of your price tag. You need to be consistently showing it, certainly in training, if not in games itself. A good point here from Smell the Glove. He says, I want to see Engels played in his preferred position of number 6 like he did in Germany. Yeah. And that's an ongoing one for me because, so he played there for Augsburg. That was his role. He's quite a physical guy. He's 6 foot plus. He's quite athletic. And Augsburg aren't Dortmund or Munich or Bayer Leverkusen. They're not a team who are always in the front foot. Quite the opposite. Their main challenge, I would say, each season is to finish mid-table and certainly to stay out the relegation places. So he's played there for them, and then all of a sudden he's asked to be that kind of link between midfield and attack for Celtic. And maybe he's been asked to be more creative than he really is. And I would like to see him given a spell there. And a massive Callum McGregor fan. Yeah. I would like to see him used sparingly, used wisely. I think it's been a big plus to Celtic that he stepped down from the international stuff. But I also think when opportunity allows, we should take him out the fire line, because I think Engels, Bernardo and McCowan can all play that number 6 for Celtic, and it would be interesting to see one of them given the nod ahead of the skipper, wouldn't it? 100%, and I think it's a really valid point made, and I think Engels would be really good to see him in that position, and again it allows McGregor that rest time. I just don't know if Brendan Rodgers will do it. For me, a perfect game would be against St Johnstone at home, and to give McGregor that rest and bring Engels in to see what he's like in there, because
the kind of snippets we seen of him before he signed, he was really comfortable at linking the game up in those kind of positions, could play the big diagonal pass out wide. He looked very comfortable in there, and you've touched upon it as well. He's quite a physical guy, so he's going to be pretty comfortable in that area. So yeah, I would like to see Engels come in and get a run in that position, absolutely. But it's just McGregor's so influential to that team. Almost undroppable, isn't he, for Rodgers? I think he wants to keep him in there as much as possible. So it's a really difficult one with the midfield three, but I wouldn't be adverse to seeing Engels coming in and getting a run in that number 6 position.
I'm the same. You used the term undroppable, takes us nicely to the next comment from San Fran Celtic, good friend of the show. He says you could also make the argument that Callum has been poor for a few weeks. Is he undroppable? And in my opinion, no player should be. Nope. But it's for Callum McGregor, there's more than just what he's doing on the park in terms of the footballing side of things. You can see how influential he is with the other players around him. I think, he's been there, done that now. I think he's 31 years of age. And I actually think all the players, but certainly the new players as well that come to the club, they just look up to Callum McGregor for a steer in the right direction, whether that's in the moment on the park, or you can see how he leads. You've seen footage of him in dressing rooms and at Lennoxtown and different things. So he does have a huge influence there. And I just wonder if Brendan Rodgers, he's obviously tinkering with his other two midfielders aside from Callum. Yeah. I think he's very reluctant to take the captain out of things there. So we'll see.
Sorry, Tino, I'm just coming in, but you actually see that even when McGregor is pinned down, I thought Rangers actually did it quite well in the cup final, tried to nullify him. You can see him off the ball directing everybody else, even though he's not directly on the ball himself. He's still influencing it, even though he's not directly passing the ball, moving the ball. He's moving other players round about him. So is he undroppable? I agree with you. No player is, but he's so influential on and off the ball. So
yeah. I think we will see him, and possibly rightly, but I think he'll start against Motherwell. And you think Hatate and Bernardo will get the nod. So let's see what the manager does. I think we've got a quandary up top. If everyone's fit and firing, we know, certainly from evidence so far this season, that it was Kuhn, Kyogo and Maeda. That's not quite the case at the moment. And again, San Fran makes a suggestion of playing Kyogo in the wing if Kuhn is out and Ida up front. I'm not sure I like that. In the same way that I don't like Maeda playing through the middle. I know that Kyogo can play on the wing. I know that Maeda can play through the middle, but it's not their area of expertise. I don't like fudging things. I like guys to play in their best and preferred position. So that wouldn't be my choice, but might be something the manager goes for. I mentioned before we came on earlier today, amongst some other things I bought today, I bought a Louis Palmer mug. Cost me £3 in the Celtic shop. I think there's a fire sale on them. I think.
Yes.
I think they've struggled to shift them. I like Louis Palmer, but I don't think it's going to work for him. But there's a guy that I do still have a bit of faith in, despite the fact that he struggled on Sunday, and it's Yang. I really do think Yang has something to offer. And I think coming into the game at Tannadice, blustery conditions, and everyone was out of form, and the team was all over the place. I mentioned it was like a COVID lineup. There was just names all over the place that you wouldn't expect to see. And I think that's hard to come into. I really do. And I'm not making excuses for him. I'm just giving reasons. But what I really would like to see is Yang given a start at Celtic Park in a game where Celtic will be on the ascendancy and on the front foot. And I think Motherwell is a real opportunity. And it would give him a fair crack at the whip. And if he does that and he doesn't excel, then maybe it's time to look elsewhere. But I think that would be a great opportunity for him. But besides Yang, overall, Greg, what do you see happening in those front three positions?
I agree with you. I had Yang in my starting lineup, and I also think you're absolutely spot on. It's at Parkhead. Also, for me, with Alistair Johnson playing with him, that will really help, allowing him more overlaps, more chance to overload in the wide areas will really help Yang. So I think that's also massive. The fact that he was playing with Ralston, and again, I'm not slaughtering Ralston by any means, but Alistair Johnson's a huge upgrade on him. So I think it'll be Yang. I think it'll be Maeda, even though he has been off form. But again, I think at Parkhead, I just think we have to draw a line under Dundee United. Maeda another side, and for me, Kyogo will keep his place. I know a lot of people will want to see Ida come back in, or get his chance ahead of Kyogo, but I think Kyogo will start.
I'm really not sure, and it's funny. I'm probably going to contradict myself, but I've spoken about. You're right. Let's draw a line under United. Guys were out of form. Conditions were poor. We're in the back of putting a lot into the cup final. All these things, but I think Kyogo, maybe for his own sakes, sometimes you can take a guy at the firing line, tactically as such in terms of, just to try and get the best out of him. And I wonder if that might be a move and Adam Idah come in. I can't quite work out what he'll do, but generally speaking, I'm happy either or. If it were me right now, it just feels the time to bring Idah in and give him that opportunity. The biggest challenge for Brendan Rodgers, actually, or any manager, is keeping everybody happy. That's the thing. So, people at times, myself included, can be critical of too much rotation, but his big challenge is keeping around about 20 well-paid footballers happy. You need to keep harmony in the camp as well. So you need to make sure that guys, even if they're not part of your bigger picture, are getting rewarded if they're showing up well in training or showing up well in their cameo minutes and things like that. I really do want us to give Yang a chance and get him a start, but we'll need to see. San Fran's giving me a hard time for that in the comments, which is fine. I wish I could have got a Yang Hung Yu mug, but they weren't selling them in the shop. I don't know what that's telling me. I'd like to see him start. And actually, if it's not Yang and Maeda, then who is it? Because I don't think Kuhn will feature. James Forrest, as we know, is out. And Louis Palma just seems to be going back the way in terms of his Celtic stuff. So, yeah, I think that might well be the move. And just the other question would be the number 9, whether it's Kyogo, whether it's Idah. Quick bit about Motherwell, Greg. So they've managed to nudge themselves up to 4th in the table, kind of under the radar, if truth be told. They've kind of quietly gone about their business. And Stuart Kettlewell gets quite a hard time, I think, from his own fans. I think he's had his ups and downs there. You might have seen the ridiculous sending off.
Casey.
Dan Casey. It was utter nonsense. And the fact that it went to VAR and still was a red card is outrageous. They've appealed it, and I'm glad they appealed it, and I'm glad the card's been overturned and he's available to face Celtic here, because if you're getting reds for that, the game is done. That was shambolic. So you'll have him back, and that's obviously a boost for Motherwell. But how do you see him approaching it? You've mentioned the fact that they might take a leaf out of Dundee United's book. And a draw. We know a draw would be a great result for Motherwell at Celtic Park. So how do you see them playing it?
Yeah, I think they'll look at the game. Dundee United will now become, for want of a better expression, a bit of a blueprint for other teams to come and just play that super low block and get bodies in the middle of the box. When I watched the game back on Sunday, the amount of shots we had that were either headed away, blocked away, a leg came out, took away a shot. So I see it being quite similar, just with the way we will set up and have a more settled start 11 back in. I think if we get an early goal, I think we could go on and put a really good scoreline in place. With these games, it's always about the first 20-25 minutes. If we can get that goal, then obviously Motherwell will need to come out. But yeah, expect it to be turgid and stuffy for the first 10-15 minutes. But I've got a feeling that an early goal might go in and it could be a decent day.
Yeah, I think that would really just set us up for a good afternoon, and hopefully that's the case. Greg, before I come back to you for scoreline predictions and final comments, we'd mentioned that today is a day for our big Christmas draw. So in recent weeks, thanks first of all to the many folks who have signed up for the Celtic Exchange Plus. With the Celtic Exchange Plus, you get ad-free listening, early access to the weekly show, and the chance to automatically enter our prize draw every month. This month, we're giving away a retro Celtic shirt, and we'll do the draw in just 1 second, so long as I can work out the tech for that. But a big thanks to everyone who's signed up. You can check out the Celtic Exchange Plus at thecelticexchange.supercast.com. And if you bear with me just a second, Greg, you can smile and look good for the viewers while I work out how to do this. Yep, so in just 1 second, you'll see the countdown on the screen, and we'll see who the big winner is this time around. Greg, you can tell me, is that counting down from 4?
It is, yep.
2, 1, and this month winner, George P. Lappin. So we've got George's details. George is a long-term subscriber, so we'll drop him a note, and well done to him for winning the shirt this time around. We're also going to do a draw here on YouTube. We get loads of support, and there's various guys in the comments: Fred Williams, Pat McLaughlin, Smell the Glove, San Fran, Gypsy King, Gio, all the guys that continue to support us there as members in the YouTube channel. So we're going to do a separate draw on Thursday after the game. So on Boxing Day, we'll do a draw. Same price, retro Celtic away shirt, and we'll do it in similar fashion. So hopefully we're picking out a big winner there for that one. Greg, to return to matters Celtic. So we've gone through what we think the lineup will be. We'll inevitably be wrong in some way, shape or form, but that's just the way that goes. We've looked at what Motherwell will do, but overall, how do you see it going? What's your scoreline prediction? As I say, back at Celtic Park for the first time in a number of weeks, I think that's a huge bonus. Big, wide open park. And players are all too aware these days, Greg, of the flack they take. And it is ridiculous, given where Celtic are generally just now, 32 games unbeaten, etc., etc. But you get flack, and that's par for the course. It's life at Celtic. But I think the players will want to respond and show what they're made of, and show why they're 9 points clear at the top of the table.
I totally agree with you, and I think they'll be really keen, the players and the manager, to put on a really good show back at Celtic Park. So in saying all that, a 0-0 boring draw. No, I'm only joking. I'm going to go Kyogo first scorer and 3-0 Celtic is my prediction for Boxing Day.
3-0 Celtic and Kyogo first scorer. I would take that all day long. I'd love to see Kyogo get back in the goal trail. It just would extinguish some of the mad noise we've heard in the last 24 hours or so. Obviously, I'm keen to see Yang, as is Sanfran, who wants to see Yang bang in a hat-trick. So we'll see how that plays out. Let us know your own comments in terms of the scoreline. I've got 2-0 from Smelly Glover Sticky, 2-0. So let us know as we start to wrap things up. Greg, your final comments. As I said at the top of the piece, we've got these 2 games now to see out the calendar year. Motherwell on Thursday and then St Johnstone on Sunday.
Yep.
2 wins, or at least avoiding defeat in those 2 games, would see Celtic 34 games unbeaten domestically before we get into that Rangers game in the second. And it would set us up perfectly for what is a pretty big game once again.
Yeah, I think we touched upon it in the post-match of the weekend. We've got to be aiming for 9 points out the next 9. 3 big games coming up. And I have a feeling Celtic I think we'll be sitting in maybe January, at the start of January, looking at 3 wins out of 3, and that'd be brilliant. Just bigger picture stuff. Draw a line under Dundee United, move forward. We're in a great place. Unbelievable records in terms of what you mentioned there and pointed out in the show earlier. But it's just about getting that performance again, and I'm really hoping it comes in Boxing Day, because it hasn't been great for a couple of weeks. There's been a couple of grindy kind of games, but I think if the performance comes against Motherwell, we get a really positive result, sets us up for St Johnstone and then the game against Rangers in New Year. Yeah,
and I agree that the performance, as much as the win, is important. Get the 3 points, yes, first and foremost. But I just think that Celtic have set such a high bar this season so far with some of the performances. The phenomenal 6-0 against Aberdeen at Hampden, brilliant that night. Massive win against Leipzig, playing some brilliant football. You can't always beat that level. It's just not possible. But they've kind of ridden the wave a wee bit since then, and it would be great to get back to that. Pat McLaughlin highlights that we've got 4 out of the next 5 at home. I think that's huge for Celtic.
Yeah.
And in terms of his own scoreline prediction, hope the Boarfest are done. He says 4-0 Celtic. Yeah. And Sanfran, man after my own heart. Looking forward to Tino rubbing our nose in it after a Yang masterclass 4-1. I think 4-0 as well. I'm there or thereabouts with Pat. 3 or 4-0 would be my prediction. And I think that would just set Celtic up perfectly for what's to come. I was laughing. I had to laugh last night on the show about the fact that we dropped 2 points for only the second time this season. 14 wins in the league, 2 draws, 0 defeats. And there's some Rangers accounts getting excited. They're struggling and all that kind of stuff. We'll see who's struggling on the 2nd of January. But listen, we'll get to all of that, Greg, in due course. Your final thoughts, mate? Obviously, we're ticking down the clock towards Christmas Day, but your final thoughts for this one?
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward. Obviously, thank you for having us on the show today, because it means it takes me away from about 100 jobs that Mrs. Harvey's got us lined up for the rest of the day. So, pleasure to come on and just get a bit of Celtic chat, and hope everybody back home has a nice Christmas. And then just looking forward to Boxing Day. It's a great day of sport all in, with obviously Celtic being the main game to watch. So just looking forward to it. Great place. I think we keep on talking about Tino, bigger picture at the moment, and just looking forward to a nice Christmas Day tomorrow, and then a 3-0 victory with Kyogo first scorer on Boxing Day.
Yeah, you heard it here first, folks. But Greg, thanks for joining us here on Christmas Eve. Thanks to everyone who's joined us, and thanks more generally to everyone who continues to join us throughout the year. It's really appreciated by myself, Greg, and the rest of the guys at the Celtic Exchange. We hope you have a happy and healthy Christmas, and hopefully next time we're talking to you, it's about Celtic's 3 or 4-0 win against Motherwell. Thanks for joining us, guys. Have a good one. Take care.